All right. Welcome to the next edition of our daily email podcast. Godwin here from Godwin Charlie. Very excited to have this man on here. Just going to take you, I'm going to get you to give me some more information about, I guess, how it all started, where the idea came from of, I guess, having tailored menswear. And I mean, I've been into I remember when you sent me a message one day and said, "Oh, we've got a sale on. You better come down here." I'll tell you what, I had buddy 6 bikes and we're down there. Buddy walked out with the whole wardrobe that Nicky's still not happy with. But he give us a bit of background about the whole where it started and how it kicked off.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Thanks for having me on today. I've always, through my teens, had always wanted to do and be something special. And as a kid, dreamed of becoming a professional basketballer. And at the age of 17, realised that that wasn't going to happen.
You have got a good jump shot. I'll give you that.
I technically, I don't mind my technique, but the body just didn't hold up. But I went on a journey. You know, I was fortunate enough to experiment with a number of careers very early on. So at 19, I was at PwC. For those of you that know the big financial services company, I was an undergraduate traineeship there for 2 years. Whilst I was there, I met a guy whose father was a tailor and was fascinated by the idea of having garments made for yourself. And being a slimmer guy, I couldn't find anything. This is 1999, sort of 2000. I couldn't find anything in the retail world that fit me perfectly or the way I'd want it to fit. So meeting this guy, he opened these doors to his father's workshop. And they were making for all the major brands in Australia at that point in sort of late 90s, early 2000s. And I thought, this is awesome. I wonder if he'll let me make some stuff for myself. So I would take my dad's old wardrobe, so jackets and pants that were fitting me really well from like the 70s. And I'd get my mates, pattern makers, to create garments for me based on my dad's old wardrobe, right?
Wow.
And my father's name's Charles. So that's where the Charlie comes from in my brand. So I experimented a lot. And people used to comment on what I used to wear. And I just realized that I had this knack for creating things that looked good. I also enjoyed the idea of taking people shopping and styling people and helping them look like 10 times better than when they've met me. And that brought me a lot of joy. But look, it was a hobby. And after PwC, I ended up studying accounting, then studied marketing as well, went into advertising. During that period, started a performing arts school with my sisters, which is where I met Nicolette as a 7, 8 year old, you know. So the Arseries have been part of my life for almost 20 years. So so my sisters and I built this creative community, which I loved, but it wasn't my gift to the world. You know, it was something fun. I loved the creativity. I loved creating a brand, but I wanted something for me. And long story short, my friend whose father had that tailoring workshop, he eventually took it over. They wanted to move out of wholesale manufacturing and start a retail brand because they felt that the future was in retail. I had the creative instinct. He saw that I enjoyed business and we became business partners. And in 2007, I left my corporate job at the time in marketing, designed my first men's and women's collection because the brand is men's and women's. And thankfully opened my first store September the 26th, 2007 on Little Collins Street.
All right. And then expanded to how many stores did you have?
I opened 8 over 10 years.
Right.
And yeah, it became.
And where were they? They were Chadstone,
Westfield, Doncaster, Little Collins, Emporium, Chapel Street, Richmond. So Collins Street. So yeah, all over the place. And yeah, it was a hell of a ride.
Yeah, far out. And then, so then you've gone from there, and you obviously had a business partner then, and then when did you've gone through a whole, I guess, and the backstory is we've gone through a whole transition of, I guess, starting back in 2007 and that, and then finishing up 2017, I think it was.
Correct. Yep.
And then the relaunch, and the relaunch is only like quite recent, 12 months. Yeah. So tell us about the whole, I guess, the transition from going through that. You got 8 stores, which I can't even like. I think one day you mentioned some numbers to me, and I was blown away. And you were like and then you talk about the online store and how that goes and stuff like that, and then to close up that whole thing, like how did that come about? Like what happened there? Because I remember going to Chadstone one day, and I remember it was probably a day you were bloody pumping out. You got a good bench press on you. You're probably pumping out 150s, and Nikki and I were going around Chadstone. I go, fuck, look at that bloody, I'm going in there, and then Nikki's like, yeah, that's Godwin. I'm like, oh my God. Like I was blown away. And yeah, tell us about that journey, I guess, into the relaunch and the exciting, I guess, relaunch. And I've seen some photos on the internet of you. You look bloody good. I tell you, walking down like that. Oh, I tell you, I'm loving it. I'm still waiting for my call, but you know what I mean. That time will come.
Yeah, look, I mean, the business grew to a point where we were invited into some pretty critical and high-profile retail locations, and I guess I was romanticized by the idea of opening my little brand in some of the biggest locations in the world. And we, in hindsight, overcapitalized in an industry where the market was moving digital. The market was moving into a more flexible, nimble kind of business model. And we were, and I guess, look, a lot of retail are still stuck in it, but we were rolling out stores, investing big money into physical stores. And personally, I took my eye off the ball on what was really important. And that was the customer. That was, me connecting with the customer on a daily level. You and I have just recently spoken about that regular connection. I lost that.
Yeah.
And we entered, Chadstone and Westfield during an environment where it was all about being on sale, and the customer just got used to always expecting big sales. And in the end, we just couldn't sustain the financial stress and strain on the business. Yeah. And we had to close, and I had to wind down. At the time I had 6 stores, and I had to wind them all down over a 6-month period, and walk away from the business, which was really, really hard.
So if you're looking at like Chadstone, like what would the rent somewhere like there be? Like just so people can understand the strains and stresses of I guess one store. Like what would that be like roughly?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not sure if these numbers will make any sense to those that aren't in retail, but a Chadstone store, like one of the smaller ones in a great location, which is where we were looking at just over 400,000 per year, just to be there. And then you've got to spend, close to over, between $500,000 and $600,000 to fit it out. And then you need to put stock in it, so before you even turn the lights on, you're spending $1 million with no guarantee that it's going to work. Yeah. So that broke us.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. People don't understand that when you, those sort of, I guess, details of when you try to launch something of yourself, and your own business, that sort of capital there. And I guess the amount of stress that, like, even just that by itself, by one store, would have on you and the business. In terms of like competing with online, like obviously you're a tailored store, and even now, I guess during the COVID-19, the struggles of, do you know what I mean? I know you're all about, do you know what I mean, the detail and that sort of stuff. And how do you get that with that personal level now? And I guess because it did turn online, how did you go with that and transitioning to having to deal with, I guess, having those sort of interactions?
Yeah, so I guess to just finish off your question from before, so I closed the business and walked away. 6 months later was approached to relaunch the label in a made-to-measure capacity. So for 10 years, I ran a business that was ready to wear, which meant that I designed the product, made the product for men and women, and then filled the stores with product, with stock. So I had inventory that I had to move all the time. So as part of the relaunch, the whole concept was that I would still design everything, but it would all be made to measure, so that, you know, you'd walk into my showroom on Flinders Lane and I would take your measurements. I would create your own unique pattern, and anything you ordered from my range, I would have made for you. So I'd only make the one sample to show you physically in the showroom, but in 4 weeks' time, I would deliver you new product to fit you. So that's the business model that I'm in today. Now, COVID hit, and up until probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was still able to operate in a physical sense for those people still able to come into the city, and for those who are working in industries that were unaffected by COVID. So they were either doctors, surgeons, to a greater extent, real estate, and these types of industries. So people were still coming in, although less, they were still able to come in.
Yeah.
Lockdown 2 comes in, stage 4. I can't operate physically anymore. So I've been able to engineer a system over Zoom where I can literally digitally come into your home and conduct a fitting with you, so that you're able to then select from my online store styles that you like, and I'd still be able to have them made for you. So I've had to adapt in that way.
Yeah.
And that's probably been the biggest change for me to date.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, you're always having to evolve with what's going on with COVID-19, and I guess the whole situations. Well, what advice would you give to any like entrepreneur, like out there? Do you know what I mean? And what advice would you give to them?
There's probably 3 things that for me are critical. And the first thing is to have a growth mindset. And by that, I mean, fall in love with learning. And I mean, learning every day. Like, make that a habit, even if it's just like 1%, like keep moving forward and have an open mindset around, you know, what lays ahead, and always be growing. So that's my first thing, have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
As part of my relaunch, one thing I really focused on was really understanding my why, my purpose for being. You know, if I was going to throw myself into an industry again that's uber competitive, why would I do it? It has to be more than just wanting to make commercial gain. It has to come from in here. And so it's really important that you understand your why. For me, it's about making people a better version of themselves by the way they present, you know, because if you look great, you feel great, you present well, and people resonate with that.
Yeah.
So understand your why. What's at the core of what you do? Why do you do it?
Yeah.
You know, for yourself, Dylan, it's more than just memberships, increasing memberships. It's about bringing joy and happiness and health to, you know, into people's lives, creating good habits.
Yeah.
And then probably the third thing would be to always surround yourself by influential people. So create a really awesome network. And I mean that in 2 regards, both professionally, so whatever industry you're in, making sure you're surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from and grow from their experience, but also probably more importantly, personally, you know, having this kind of personal board that sits around you that's able to be super honest, encourage you to be your best self, encourages you to adapt good habits, and is there for you no matter what. So I think having great networks around you, both professionally and personally, is critical. So that would be my 3 things.
I think
a lot of them resonate with me as well, into like having a growth mindset. Do you know what I mean? And I guess the why of why you do something. Do you know what I mean? It's when you own your own business, it's not just, you know what I mean, I finish work at 5 and you go home and sit on the couch and that's it. You know what I mean? You're literally working, you know what I mean, every hour, and it just doesn't stop. And do you know what I mean? There's constant pressures and that you put on yourself or whatever it is. But for me, do you know what I mean? You've got do you know what I mean? If you've got 600 people that, do you know what I mean? I feel like, do you know what I mean? I'm a leader to, and you've got to make sure that you're always onto every single one. You can't let one drop. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the way you can positively impact their day and or their life. Do you know what I mean?
Well, look, I mean, Dylan, when we'll probably touch on it at some point in this conversation, but that period of my life when business wasn't great and I had to wind it down, it took its toll on me mentally as well and physically. And when I hit rock bottom in 2016, I stumbled across you. That's how we met, right?
Yeah.
I was probably about 64 kilos, wasn't sleeping, but I knew that I had to prioritize my health. And I heard about you had opened a gym, and I remember walking into that roller door and you greeting me there. And I just said to you, help, I need help, and you were there with your open arms, and, I'm forever grateful for that. So, I understand what you do. It's crazy to hear you've got 600 members now. I mean, that's a testament to your passion for what you do. But, you were there when I needed you. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it. No, well, look, that's why we do what we do. I mean, we're not just a gym, and that's one of the things I always say to everyone is, I mean, you can go to a commercial gym and, I mean, be a number, but here you definitely won't be. So that goes on to obviously the mental stresses of life, I guess. How do you deal with that? Do you meditate? Do you read? Like, how do you, what do you do?
Yeah, so I've been able over the last 3 years since my reawakening, my rebirth, I guess. I've established new habits. So most mornings I'm up at 5, and I spend the first hour of that day dedicated to me, and that starts with meditation. So I practice transcendental meditation. So that's 20 minutes in the morning, and where I can, I make sure I fit in 20 minutes again in the afternoon. I do gratitude. So I write down the top 10 things that morning that I'm grateful for, and not just things that I'm grateful for in my current life, but things that I'm wanting to be. So I'm grateful for things that are in my wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Right. I also I'm big on affirmations, and constantly looking at ways and areas of my life, both personally and professionally, where I can improve. And probably, every month I write down a positive statement that helps me move into a new vibration, a new way of being. And that's really tough, because it's really about being honest with yourself and really, shining a light on areas that you may have, formed bad habits over the years, are limiting your potential. It's really about reversing some old what we call paradigms, old habits, and creating new habits. And normally I would train. So it's mind and body, and I'd do some exercise. So by 7 o'clock, I'm mentally and physically prepared for the day ahead. And what I like to do on a Sunday is on a Sunday evening, reflect on the week that's just been. And a lot of the time, as business owners, we're so fast paced, we don't spend time reflecting on what we've achieved, not just for the year, for the half year, but for that week. I mean, we do so much as business owners, and we don't realize what we're achieving. So I've now gotten to the habit of every Sunday, I write down the top 10 things that I'm proud of and that I achieved for the week, right? So I do that.
Yeah.
And I plan my week. So I've fallen into good habits around time blocking. So I make sure that I look at my week and I go, okay, when am I training? When am I catching up with friends? When am I dedicating time to my meditation? I time block everything where I can, so that I make sure I go into the week controlling the things that I can control. And then everything else will just kind of be. I'll just deal with them as they sort of come up. So, yeah, and all of these. Did you
get that from anyone like those sort of routines and habits? Did you see that anywhere? Did you where have they come from?
So, I've got a number of coaches in my life that have they come in and out. So I've got mentors and coaches that I learn from. I read a lot, and there's a guy that I'm a massive fan of, who I actually had the opportunity 10 years ago to actually dress when he came to Melbourne as part of a speaking circuit, and that's Tim Ferriss. And I know you're a fan of his work. And Tim Ferriss is a podcast which I love listening to as well, which is where I learned the meditation technique, transcendental meditation. So having studied meditation for a year, it was Tim Ferriss who opened my eyes to a new form of meditation, which a lot of top high-performing individuals use throughout their life. So it's mentors, it's books, it's podcasts, but that was all born from this appetite to be better, to learn, and to always be learning. And I value that on top of anything and everything these days. If I'm not healthy up here, then I'm nothing. And I know I've been nothing. 3 years ago, I couldn't sleep. I lost everything and didn't understand why I was getting up in the morning. Had no purpose, So I put my mental health first all the time. Yeah. And that goes hand in hand with my physical, which is where Performance Club comes into it.
So tell us about any favorite podcasts that you listen to that any of the viewers can jump onto. I'm extremely interested to hear those sort of things you just said. And I've been sort of getting into Tim Ferriss a fair bit over this lockdown, and I didn't really know much about him. And read. Had an audio book that I've literally got on repeat now, and I'm literally just saving notes and then put it into my little note bag. Do you have a journal at all, or?
So what I do, I go through phases with my journaling, but I use journaling as a way to, when I feel stuck, I journal. So I'm now very much in tune with, I try to be, with how I'm feeling, right? So I try and get out of my head, and I try and get into my body, and I just write. I write how I'm feeling, and I don't hold back, So I may be reluctant to share it with everyone or share it with the world, but whatever I put down on paper, I know it's sacred, but I also know it's there in front of me, and if I've written it, it means it's in there somewhere, and I'm holding on to it. So I do enjoy journaling. I'm also big on what is referred to as a life script. So I record myself in the future, my future self, across my personal, professional life. So personal, professional, and relationships. And I project myself, my ideal self, into the future. And I record myself being that person. So every day I listen to that as a way of connecting with who I want to be. And that's just another little trick that I've learned along the way to kind of keep me locked in on, my big goals, and ensuring that as I'm going through life, I'm reflective at all times. So, and Tim Ferriss, I'll speak about him again. He's an amazing individual because, for those that don't know who he is, he's an expert of experts. Like, he just loves learning and he loves deconstructing masters of their industries. And he's just such an incredible individual and someone I really look up to, who has an incredible appetite for growth.
Yeah.
And those that he does interview on his podcast are incredibly inspirational and the best at their craft. And you can learn from everyone in any industry.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. In terms of what is your goal, or what is your next, like what is the vision for Godwin? Like what do you want to achieve?
Yeah, really good question. I think one of the things that I'm now big on, it's dreaming bigger than I ever have, and it's hard at times. You know, we grow up with parents who obviously want the best for us, who love us, but they can be at times overly protective and want us to live a safe life. And we get into our 20s and we're looking for security, and we probably don't dream big enough. You know, as a youngster, as a teenager, I wanted to be the best basketballer in the world. Like, that was a massive dream, you know. And then I got into my 20s, and yes, I was looking for purpose and I was looking to do something that I loved and I was passionate about, but I probably wasn't dreaming big enough, you know. So for me, it's really about being an absolute authority in my space. And that's not just in design, but in helping people become best versions of themselves. Like I'm realizing now that I help people through what I do by creating beautiful product. I help people get into the spirit of what they do, right? You may be a lawyer. You want to be the best lawyer. You might be a CEO of a firm, or you're a keynote speaker and you're in front of thousands of people, or you're a professional athlete that you need to maintain a personal brand for the media. I'm able to influence those individuals on all these different platforms. And I want to be known as the go-to guy for that, you know, because I'm all about wanting to help people more than ever. And I've got a gift to make people look and feel their best by what I do. And it's taken me, you know, the whole part of the last 14 years to realize that it's more than just selling clothes, you know? So, you know, I mean, the thousands of weddings that I've styled, you know, in particular for men who, in a lot of cases, it's their one time that they get to dress up and be this handsome gentleman who gets to share a really special moment with the love in their life. And, you know, they don't always end on a good note, but at least on that wedding day, I'm able to influence that really special day. So yeah, it's really about becoming that authority and expanding the Godwin Charlie brand, not only nationally, but internationally. I know that my product is world-class, and that once I have the right processes and people around me and the business structures around me, my business can exist anywhere in the world.
It's funny you said that about, do you know what I mean, when your parents just want you to be safe and do you know what I mean, and I guess be comfortable and live comfortable. It resonates to me when I said to my dad, I said, I'm gonna quit being a sales manager at Bayfit and I'm gonna start PTing. I have to pay rent every week and whatever I make. And I remember the discussion was, no, I don't know if that's a good idea. Are you sure? Like, you know, I mean, you're getting paid a wage. So what wage you get paid then? I said, there'll be no wage. I have to pay rent. And it was just, you know, I mean, there's that resonance of being safe and just, maybe just be comfortable with where you're at. And I was like, no, I was very determined and very focused to know where you want to go. And then even if you look at Nikki, who was working at Deloitte and just hated every minute of being an accountant, like just, you know what I mean? Just, it wasn't for her, you know what I mean? The stresses of everything. And now she enjoys what she does. Do you know what I mean? It's being able to take those risks and not live in fear, I guess, as a business owner of failing. So tell us any books that you would suggest Any of our listeners, our members?
Wow, books.
Give me three of the ones that you think would best help develop and.
Yeah, there's one. It's an old book. It's by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich, and it's not just about being rich in terms of wealth, money. It's richness and wealth in all aspects of your life. So Think and Grow Rich is a really great book. It's an old book, but you can also get it as an audio book. It's a great one.
Yep.
There's a few. Finding your soul. So I think we forget. I forget the author, but it's a book that helps you tap into your true self, right? So letting go of the ego and becoming one with who you are and who you are instinctively. And I think being able to connect with your intuition is a really powerful thing because it holds all the answers, right?
Mm.
And a final book, gosh, I think if you look up any of Tim Ferriss's books, I think Tools of the Titans is a good one if you're a business owner. I think he's just such an insightful guy, and I think if you can listen to his podcasts, if you can read his books, there's just a lot to be learnt.
Yeah.
From Tim Ferriss. So yeah.
So we're nearly done. So in terms of you're going through those rough periods. 2016, and everything's sort of, I guess, crumbling under you. You're finishing all the businesses and stuff like that. In terms of lifting yourself back up and I guess reuniting that flame and finding a more personal reason and why I guess is the key answer. You started meeting with guys every Monday for the last 12 months. Called
Every Man,
yeah, because I saw it on your Facebook. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago. So talk us about that. Yeah, so
it's a movement that's been it's quite new. We're the inaugural chapter in Australia. We're 9 guys. It's a movement that's come from the US, in particular New York. It's massive over there, and it's about men creating better versions of themselves, and it's about becoming emotionally more intelligent as men in society. And instead of, pushing our emotions aside and not dealing with them, it's about becoming aware of what they are and approaching them in a productive way. And so every Monday for 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours, 9 guys get together, the same 9 guys, and it's a serious commitment. If you're not able to attend, you need to record a reason why, and you need to tell at least 2 of your fellow members the reason why you're not going to be there, because so we all take it very serious. And it's about us. It gives us each a platform to voice our everything good about our lives and all the darkest parts of our lives. So it just gives us as men an opportunity to share in a very safe environment. And it's our role as members, as fellow members, to listen and to hold each man in a safe way. So we're not there to give advice. We're there to listen and to ask the right questions so that you can talk your way through certain feelings, struggles that you're going through in your life, whatever it is. It's really up to you what you want to share. But it's been incredibly pivotal in my growth over the past 18 months. It's been 18 months now. So yeah, I couldn't be more grateful of that group. And the objective of the group is to then spread the message that as men in society, we can shrug off the old stereotypes that, men have to be tough and hide their emotions, and it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to share, and it's okay to be emotional. And a lot of growth comes from that.
It was interesting you just said, asking the right questions and listening. And I guess that's a big thing about, I guess, what's going on in the society at the moment is, I mean, are you okay? And not just taking, do you know what I mean, yes or no is the answer, like asking deeper questions and listening, and not expecting that you're going to give advice to someone, but do you know what I mean, you listening to someone might help them in a way that you don't even understand. And I guess, you mean, if someone says, do you know what I mean, no, I'm not okay, like where do you go from there? Do you know what I mean? Like, what questions do you ask to help them? And not, do you know what I mean? You're not going to be giving them advice, but just listening and being able to express your emotions is going to help someone out. I think it's a big thing about, do you know what I mean, what everyone's going through at the moment, and a big issue. And I guess something that's really important with us at the Performance Club is being able to have that community sort of aspect and being able to, I mean, people are making friends every single day here, and it's just a bigger network of people who you can talk to, who you can express those feelings in a safe environment. Do you know what I mean? You've got no egos here. You've got no one. Do you know what I mean? We're all family. And I guess from what you were saying about the members and trying to, I guess, make it a bigger thing. That's what we try to do here, I guess, is having 600 family members, 600 members where you feel safe and, do you know what I mean? You rock up early and you have a chat and you can naturally, like I see members all the time, do you know what I mean? Having deep personal discussions because they feel in a safe environment. And I guess that's one of the biggest things that we try to do here. So I really appreciate you having a chat about that. In terms of like giving some advice, if you were a 20-year-old, what advice would you give yourself?
The advice that I'd give my 20-year-old self, or in my 20s, that to be grateful every day, you know, showing gratitude or expressing gratitude is such a powerful thing, and it can lift you out of the darkest place. So I think being grateful every day, and you know, every morning I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for before I start the day. So that's one. To set goals that are huge, that scare the living daylights out of you, right? To not be afraid to dream big. You know, we lose that sense of imagination when we grow up. But I think it's really about tapping into that fantasy, the ability to think big, and not really questioning how, but knowing that our imagination is limitless, and whatever we can visualize in our minds, we can create. So I think it's that, to set big goals and to hold yourself accountable. And I think that every day to get 1% better, you know, comes back to that growth mindset, that every day we can learn something. We need to feel that sense of moving forward, you know, because if we're not moving forward, we're dying. You know, if you're not growing, you're disintegrating, you know. So to not ever feel content with just being, to keep evolving, and to keep putting myself in situations where I'm out of my comfort zone, because it's when you're faced with fears is on the other side of fear. There's a really good YouTube clip on YouTube that Will Smith speaks to, and it's about, you know, on the other side of fear is bliss, is growth, and I think there's something in that. So in that growth mindset, to always be putting yourself out of your comfort zone and into areas that you can grow. So that's what I'd tell my 20-year-old self.
Good. No, mate, I really appreciate you jumping on here, mate. It's been a really good chat for myself, and hopefully for all our members to watch. And I mean, you're a wonderful man, and you're doing great things, and we really appreciate you taking the time, and just keep kicking goals, mate, because we love seeing you smile. And I tell you what, I can tell you when I'm walking down the street and I see you now, I mean, the smile on your face compared to I mean, when you walked into the Performance Club is just unbelievable. And that's a true testament to yourself and to your partner and to your life you're living now. And yeah, I'm really loving seeing that smile. So keep it up, and yeah, we'll have to get you back on maybe next year when hopefully this will finish and we can see where you're at in terms of your goals.
100%. I can't wait to get back into the club and yeah, start smashing it. So start smashing that bench press again.
Mate, unbelievable. Strongest man ever. I'll tell Mike, everybody be loving that. Nah, thanks a lot, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dylan. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, mate.